I'm Sarah von Inner-Ebner, and I'm from Vancouver, British Columbia. And about 5 years ago, I got into Lego because my husband does GBC and Akiyuki, and I thought, that looks pretty fun. So I joined the local Lego club, and I met a lot of great builders, and they encouraged me to start building. So I started with a couple of things that meant a lot to me in my childhood, mostly related to literature, like Madeline. And then I thought, I really love Beauty and the Beast. And at the time, the Beauty and the Beast castle set had come out, so that's where I got the little characters from. So we have Lumiere and Cogsworth and so on. And so for BrickCan 2 years ago, we did a Fallout shelter. And I took that opportunity to do a mini library, and people loved it. So it did win a prize, and it did win a bag of the ornament with bar piece. And as soon as I saw that piece, I was like, wow, that reminds me of the crown molding in the library from the movie. So that was kind of, okay, we got to go big. We got to make the library. So I started researching, and interestingly, there's not a lot of information on the 1991 classic of why did they design the library that way. It's sort of a 43 seconds of film time. The Beast reveals the library, Belle is like amazed, and then nothing else really after that. So usually for movies, they'll have an inside story of the making of. And at that time, technology had just advanced, and so the ballroom scene really got a lot of the explanation and the sweeping ballroom scene, and nothing else really happened for the library. So a lot of what I had to go on was just that 43 seconds of screen time. So I printed this image. I also had it as my desktop background at work. And every time I looked at this image, I was like, oh my goodness. And I would see a new detail that I somehow needed to convert into Lego. There was no really other children's books that would show something else. So I just started sketching and designing, figuring out the floor plan. So initially I actually thought that they came in on the right side of the library and that there was more windows, but you realize that actually the characters, they're kind of spying on Belle and the Beast, and that kind of told me, okay, there's actually only 2 windows. So that's sort of what got me started for building.
Yeah, I mean, it is such a massive project, like you said. So yeah, as you kind of figured out the scale and what size you wanted it to be, then kind of where did you go from there?
So again, always going back to my reference image, we see that we have Belle and the Beast, and they're about that big, and it's a 2-story library, and then we have these sort of overlooking library lions, as I like to call them. So they definitely are a very prominent piece in the library, so that's what really helped determine the scale. Now, Lego doesn't have a lot in sand green, and I was like, I want to recreate a lion, so like, how do we do that? And Lego Ninjago came through for me. So I bought 2 of the mech dragon sets, and that provided the snout piece that we see on our lions. But the problem, what that was interesting, was they had these flails, the dragon flails. So we did get to be creative in using snot technique to obscure those. And so sort of once I had the lions established, I also went to the Lego store, and in the Pick a Brick Wall, they had these lovely window panels that we know very well, and there's sort of the unsung hero when it comes to the bookshelves, is that's what is the backing for the books. And so I spent about 2 hours at the store just trying to sketch out how many of these window panels would be needed to sort of do that scale. So that's sort of what helped get that floor plan figured out and how tall it would need to be.
So do you know how many book pieces you have in there, or how long did it take you to collect all those pieces?
That is a great question. So of course when you're building something this big, you don't count. You don't know how many pieces something will be. I can estimate there's maybe about 5,500 books. I just took a little bit of math and figured out, okay, if I have this many shelf bays, that's probably how many pieces. But I also did a variety of pieces too. So for the back part, I actually did everything that was kind of friction fit. So in my little model here, I would have segments like this, and I actually just placed them in like so, and it would be flush with the shelf. which is great for the back portion because it's not that accessed, and I did selective compression. But in the front part, I really wanted it to look textured and realistic. You'll notice I have some books that are tilted over, and all of these are just placed. They're not stuck in any way. So when I travel with it, I actually have cardboard inserts that I put right in front of it just to kind of keep them on the shelves. So what do you define as books? Well, we have segments of plates and jumpers and tiles. We have Batman utility belts, gold bars, laptops, suitcases, and then, of course, like old style books and new style books. And so that I'm really pleased with how this came out. Lots of diversity of color depending on what the pieces were. And there's a couple like little Easter eggs in there too. I have a gold bar. Somebody gave me a little DJ kit, so that's hiding in the shelves. So just like little things like that really helps make it look like a library collection. And in my personal life, I also work at a library, so I was able to kind of take from that as well.
That's great. So it's kind of a personal connection for you as well then.
Absolutely. I'm very passionate about libraries, and this was always one of my favorite Disney classics, so I had to do it justice.
It is kind of the ultimate when it comes to library design, isn't it?
Absolutely. I guess a couple Easter eggs I can talk about. Lego doesn't make any of the classic books anymore, so that's predominantly why I showcase them on the mantle in that way. I tried to obtain all the colors. Bricklink is fantastic for that. One of my favorite books is, I think it's from a 1994 set, is the Dolphin Book I have displayed on the table there. I did cheat a little bit, which you can do in Lego, but I did find someone who had the sticker from that set on eBay for $15, and I thought, I'm not going to spend $15 on a sticker, but thankfully someone had a great picture of it online, so I printed it out. I used double-sided tape, put it on the same teal color blue, and I made my own. But of course, if I ever do find one for less than $15, I will buy it. And then the new Disney Castle set came out, so I had to showcase that book just to give tribute back to Disney.
Another great detail of the build that captures your eye when you first walk up is the floor tiling. So you've got some great patterns in there. How did that come together for you?
Another great question. Again, looking at our reference image, we have dark green, we have tan, we have lines that carry all the way through. So while we were doing this, I had a rough idea. I knew that there was some dark green triangles came through. And also in some of the children's literature I found, I knew there was like some blue circles with gold designs in them. Of course, again, selective compression, you can't do everything. And thankfully, again, at the time, there was a Lego Friends set that came out with this beautiful, I believe it's called nougat color, and Lego Bricks and Pieces. The website, we were able to order about 400 of them. I think I had to do 2 orders in order to get the right quantity. And we were really worried it wouldn't come in time for last year's brick can because of delay in postage. But it did come through, and again, in the little model here, we can see that we have our plate, and then we did the tile on top. And so I feel that was the best match in order to replicate the library scene.
How did you decide going to the exterior now on what the exterior color and kind of design would look like?
Another great question. So at these shows, you get to talk to other AFOLs and find out about what some of their favorite things are. And I wanted to make the inside beautiful, but also the exterior. And I wanted to tie a lot of the elements of the film back. So you'll find this front portion here. Of course, the mirror in the movie is very important. So I did kind of slightly modify the sticker that came in the castle set so that we have the mirror and we have Belle's father. We also have the stained glass elements, so that's been included. And last but not least, we have a Lego rose. So that's actually the new style rose, which I was really happy with. But I thought, they're also in this grand castle. So the exterior wall has the profile brick to, again, remind us that it's a castle. And use lots of greenery with budding roses and red roses, and just tried to make it look really dynamic. And then another Easter egg I always do is I love Spider-Man, so he's always hanging out. So we have Spider-Man hanging out on the outside of the castle today.
There you go. I'm sure a lot of the kids pick up on that as they're walking by.
Any other elements you want to know about? Pretty much everything had to be rebuilt a few times just to kind of do it justice. It's a grand library.
And experiment a little bit with some of the elements. Yeah, one thing that definitely also catches your eye is kind of these second story areas, the spiral staircase, the platform there. So how did that come together?
The stairs. Well, the more you look at our reference image, the more you realize those stairs are not physically possible. And so there was a real challenge with Lego is very straight and square, and so how do you recreate a rounded staircase? So my way of sort of researching what other builders have been able to successfully accomplish is going on Pinterest. And so I collect a bunch of images. There was this great elves village that I had found. And pretty much every level of the stairs is a plate followed by 1x2s. And I pivoted each of them. And eventually the math ended up working out that we were able to meet on the second level. And then, of course, just tiles to kind of carry that white elegance all the way to the top. So it clicks at the top and it clicks at the bottom. And when I travel, usually I break it in the middle as well, just so that it stays together. And the dogs, they happen to match the floor really well, so that's why they were chosen. There was another one that I wasn't sure, but this seemed to match better.
And you mentioned earlier that you and your husband both build. So do you find that as you're working on builds together, can you bounce ideas off of each other? Is there kind of a collaborative process at all as you're working on the builds?
Absolutely. A lot of what I've been able to learn and absorb in the last 5 years is due to our local club as well as my husband. I already had a great collection to source from because he's built Lego since he was a child. So that was pretty nice. And then, of course, he wanted to encourage me to keep building. So there was a lot of things that had to be reiterated, and I wanted it to look just right. I was kind of a perfectionist in that way. The library lions, for instance, that was 4 iterations to get them just right. The first one, he was too far back. The other one, he was too far forward. He had this weird thing with his ears. So we eventually got him so that he fit in the alcove because he couldn't be much bigger, but you wanted him to be predominant. Another challenge was the windows in the back because of the way the crown molding clicks on top to hold everything together. So we wanted to have the glass, but we also wanted to have sort of a falling curtain effect, and it is all clutched at the top and then just drapes down. So there's like a 1 stud gap right at the bottom where the window benches are. So he had to help me quite a bit with that, and he taught me some of his tricks, such as going on rebrickable and putting in a color and just finding out what pieces come in that color. So I knew I needed dark green. There was no other color options. So a lot of just spaceship pieces in order to do that. And we tinkered around with a few ideas before we finally settled on this. But for the most part, I got to build independently. And then when I struggled with something, such as I'm not even sure what to call it, trophy that's on the mantle, we tried a couple different instances just to get those details just right and try to replicate it as best we could.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, it's fantastic work here. I think that the build turned out amazing. You've got some of the trophies. It's one on top there, so congratulations. Definitely well-deserved there.
Thank you. Yes, so I was absolutely honored and grateful. Last year, this mock was voted People's Choice at BritCan 2018 as the public. Best in Show as voted by attending AFLs. Best Doppelganger for its category, and in our local club, the Dean Lavelle Award for Favorite Mock for 2018. So huge honor, and it's received so much love online as well as people that I've interacted with. So I've been really happy to share this.
And I know you said you work in a library. Have you displayed this in the library you work at or done anything like that?
Not quite yet, but a lot of my coworkers, they're like blown away, and they can see that level of detail as well. There's no classification system quite yet in place, but local toy stores have also displayed this, Toy Traders in Langley, and so I've been very happy to share it with them and share it with people who haven't been able to come out to BritCan, but we're hoping that they'll be able to come out to future shows.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for taking us through the incredible build here. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Enjoy the show.